What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here. Welcome back to the channel. It is a very big day. I'm sure most of you have heard the news already. If not, I'm going to break it all down for you here. It finally happened. We finally got the big win we've been waiting for in terms of the NCAA allowing its student athletes to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And yes, that means the eventual return of NCAA football games. If you are new to the channel and you want to always be up to date on things like this, Madden news, and more, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you never miss any of the uploads. So most of you guys that have been here, you already know I've been keeping you up to date every step of the way over the last year. If you're new here, welcome. The NCAA, earlier this year said that they were going to be meeting about this, possibly making some adjustments to the rules to allow players to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. And it was going to go all the way until October until they made a final decision. And then, of course, just last month, California passed a law that is going to allow for players in California to profit off their name, image, and likeness, saying that the schools could not prohibit them from doing that, and that's going into effect in a few years. And when that happened, I made a video about a month ago talking about it, saying that this is really the first domino to fall, because there were other states that were already kind of in the process of putting a similar thing into action for their states in the near future. And I said in that video that this is going to be what really starts to cause the change, because not only was the NCAA already looking into it themselves, the fact that individual states were now about to start passing these individual laws, it was going to pretty much make it to where the NCAA had to change the rules. Between the pressure that's been on them for years and the fact that they were already talking about it, and now having the individual states forcing it on them, because it would have just caused too much of a mess. And there were a lot of people in the video who were like non-believers, saying, oh, just because California passed some crazy law doesn't mean the NCAA is going to change anything. They're just going to ban those schools from, being bowl eligible and things of that nature. There's no way this passes. But the thing people don't realize is with more states that were on board with this, they were right behind California, already putting it into the works. It's not good business for the NCAA, who already has a bad rap for, how much they make, and that fact that they don't let the student athletes get anything off of their name. They already had that pressure on their back. Meanwhile, if you have these states passing these laws, you can't just sit here and ban so many of these big name schools from being bowl eligible, because that would just be terrible for your brand. So, let's say you got California passes a law. Now let's say Florida passes it, right? Are you going to sit here and say USC, Miami, Florida State, these type of big name programs, you're going to sit here and say like they're not bowl eligible now? And then you add on other states, if New York joins in, and just other, whatever other states. You might only have 8 or 9 states that go right into this, but all the big name schools combined in all those areas, that's a bad look for these big fan bases. They want to go compete and win championships. You can't ban all these schools from being bowl eligible. So the NCAA, it was in their best interest to make changes to the rules themselves instead of having all of these overlapping rules from different states. So this is what happened today. We're going to read the article. It says, the NCAA's top decision makers voted unanimously Tuesday to start the process of modifying its rule to allow college athletes to profit from their names, image, and likeness in a manner consistent with the collegiate model. The board directed the 3 separate divisions of the organization to immediately begin figuring out how to update their rules in a way that maintains a distinction between college and professional sports. The board members said in its release Tuesday that all changes should make sure student athletes have some opportunities to make money, as all other students maintain the priorities of education and the collegiate experience, and ensure that the rules are transparent, focused, and enforceable, and do not create a competitive imbalance. The board wants each division to implement new rules by January of 2021. It says here, we must embrace change to provide the best possible experience for college athletes. Additional flexibility in this area can and must continue to support college sports as a part of a higher education. This modernization for the future is a natural extension of the numerous steps NCAA members have taken in recent years to improve support for student athletes, including full cost of attendance and guaranteed scholarships. The association's Board of Governors gathered Tuesday morning in Atlanta on the campus of Emory University for its final regularly scheduled meeting of 2019. Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith and Big East Commissioner Val Ackerman presented recommendations to the board members on how to modify the NCAA's rules on students profiting from name, image, and likeness. Smith and Ackerman have spent the past several months spearheading a working group that was appointed to evaluate the issue. Now here it says, U.S. Congressman, they're talking about what happened last month. U.S. Congressman Mark Walker proposed a bill to change the federal tax code in a way that would likely force NCAA to give all student athletes the right to sell their name, image, and likeness. The current proposal would create an unrestricted market for college athletes to seek endorsement deals. Walker said earlier this month that he hoped to bring his bill to a vote in early 2020, which could mean it would go into effect for January 2021. More than a dozen states have expressed interest in creating laws similar to California's in the past several months. Florida governor last week voiced his support for the bill in the state and could go into effect sometime this summer. Just like I was saying, California passed their law last month. Florida was the next one that was kind of right behind them. And then we had the other guy in North Carolina who he didn't pass a bill. He was a congressman. He didn't pass a bill or anything, or he was trying to basically like kind of update the tax code to say, you know, this could be like the easy way to do it for all NCAA schools, letting these guys have ways that they can profit off their name, image, and likeness, meaning getting endorsement deals, signing autographs, and yes, getting paid to be in the NCAA games. Because the problem with being in NCAA games was once some of these players were out of college and they saw that, you know, they had guys in the game, it might not have been their real name, but it looked just like them. And, you know, running back for LSU, whatever the case may be, right, looks just like Leonard Fournette or something, right? And he sees this and he's like, well, I mean, that's me in the game, even though you don't have my name in there, that's me, you know, I'm going to sue. Now, obviously, it wasn't Leonard Fournette that did it. It was Ed O'Bannon, a UCLA basketball player. But the point is, once these guys were retired, they could kind of go and seek damages for saying, well, you got a guy in the game that's supposed to be me, he looks like me, but I'm not being paid for this. And that's what caused the stop of the NCAA games, because EA was doing everything kind of, they were operating, you know, and the other, you know, even when 2K made games and things like that, they were operating with, you know, doing what they were supposed to do, right? They weren't using their real names, but of course they tried to make the players somewhat in their best way resemble who the actual players on the team were. And, you know, with the way lawsuits are nowadays, it gets really tricky, and they had to settle and pay out a lot of money. Now, from that point on, you know, the companies like EA were perfectly fine paying these athletes to put them in the game, because they still stood to make way more money by having the game out there itself. But then you had some of the actual schools pulling back and saying, well, we don't want to, you know, let's say Ohio State or, you know, Florida State, whoever. Some of these schools are like, you know, we don't want to license our program, you know, our logos, our name to the game, because then it becomes a big mess for everybody, because nobody wants to be in a situation where they could potentially get sued for having part in this. So it kind of just caused a chain reaction where everybody just pulled back. And now you saw it this year with Madden, right? We had, you know, the college portion of the game where they had about 10 schools, and some people are saying, well, why isn't Ohio State in the game? Why isn't Alabama in the game? Why aren't some of these big name schools in the game? Because those schools likely did not want to license their name and logos and stadiums and uniforms to the game, because they don't want any part of it until something is cleared up, like what happened today, until the NCAA makes kind of a sweeping change that says, okay, this is all right now. We're going to let these players, you know, be able to negotiate with these game companies or brands or whatever to get their own money. That way nobody gets sued. It's up to them to go out there and do it. So this is a huge win, because this almost guarantees that NCAA games will be coming back soon, but it's gonna be a few years out, because we're not 100% sure when everything's gonna go into effect just yet. But the fact that the change is coming, I mean, it's a win for college athletes, because a lot of these guys, you know, they do stand to make a little bit of money while in college. Big name guys. Think of a Zion Williamson last year at Duke. You don't think he could have been making money while he was at Duke? He definitely could have. You know, think of, you know, right now, you know, Tua Tagovailoa, you know, guys like that. You don't think he could be making a little bit of endorsement money or something like that, being a big name guy, likely going to be #1 overall draft pick? You know, there's a lot of guys that stand to make money. So now that they'll be able to do that going forward, these companies can negotiate with them, get their likeness, and then the schools will likely be on board, because there's no more mess that they're going to be in because of the new rule changes. So everybody will probably be back on board. Everybody's getting a little piece of the pie, and then EA gets to put out a game which I'm sure they're going to make a lot of money off of, because people want the games back. So honestly, this is a huge win. You know, I can link all the articles below. You know, if you haven't heard about it, it's not BS. It's all that's being talked about on Twitter right now. I believe NCAA, EA Sports, all that stuff is trending on Twitter right now because people are excited. And we just heard last week from the CEO of EA Sports that said he said, I quote, I made a video on this as well. He said, we would jump at the opportunity to make college football games again. So they are interested. We have a company that's interested and willing to build the game. We have the NCAA rules that are going to go into effect in the near future. It just seems like it's inevitable at this point. We might have to wait a couple more years, maybe 3 more years. It really depends on how long everything takes to go into effect. And obviously, it's going to take some time to build out a new game, but everybody wants these games back. I'm excited for it. I'm sure a lot of you guys are here. Let me know how you feel about it below. Are you excited? Are you ready for this to happen? How soon do you think we can get it back? And as always, I will see you guys next time.